Hi, I'm Obtuse, host of the 8-Bit Power Hour on 8bitx.com, and today I am speaking with Erutan, aka Kate the Great 19. Did I say it right? Erutan?
Erutan.
Erutan.
Yes.
Okay. Kate has made amazing original music with her album Rain Dancer, and Kate also makes amazing video game arrangements and has been featured on OC Remix. So, when did you first start making music?
I started making music when I was 2 years old. My mother started me on violin lessons, and for many years that was the path. The classical violin path was what I was on. But when I was 15, I discovered my love for singing and writing music. And I've just filled notebook after notebook with scads of songs that I'd written. And of course, I was a huge gamer even back then, so most of the songs were labeled like Town Theme or Dungeon Number 5 or something like that. I was prepared for when I would become a great video game composer, which never happened.
So
some of them are good.
So far, you haven't made the step into video game music?
I was able to write 2 songs for a online RPG, Dragon Nest, the Southeast Asian version, and I did 2 songs for them, and they're in the game right now. So that was really fun. I wish I could do more of it.
Very cool. Did your parents also play music?
My mom taught violin for 30 years in various schools and also in her home. It was a really neat environment to grow up in. And she was very road less traveled by in spirit, so anything I wanted to do career-wise, she was totally okay with. And she is a gamer as well. She loves Oblivion and Harvest Moon and Final Fantasy IX. And she's really very happy when I do video game arrangements. And sometimes she will play them herself on the piano.
Oh, that's awesome. So then will you play along with her sometimes?
No, I just let her do her own thing.
Okay. So, who are the artists that kind of inspire you? I mean, composers, musicians?
There's no one really in particular that inspires me as far as sound goes, but I did play for a couple years with a Celtic and medieval group, and I think these people really shaped my sound the way to where it is today. We did so many gigs, and I learned the entire early music repertoire and got first-hand experience with all the instruments that are used, and also a lot of practical knowledge, like how the recording process works and how how to arrange things. And I use these skills daily, and early music is still my happy place.
I see you have many instruments that you use in your music, and I mean even right here. I love how you got your room set up. It looks magical.
It was awful before.
Was it? Well, now it looks just wonderful. Like I'd love to just sit down with everything you have there and play it. So, could you name some of the instruments that you have in your room?
Yes. Well, this is a Baroque guitar. It was the guitar before the romantic guitar, so it's very small. It's smaller than a parlor guitar, and it has 5 courses, which is 5 sets of 2 strings going across. And you play it more like a lute than a guitar, and it's really fun. I love it. And the harp back there is a troubadour lever harp, and that's the main instrument I use for my covers. And then the very back is a medieval harp, or a Gothic harp. And lately I've been playing a lot of Irish music on that, and it sounds really fun. The lute is on my bed. There's the hammer dulcimer on the desk, and the frame drum behind that. And a bunch of other instruments couldn't make it into the picture. You were shy.
How many different drums do you use?
Probably six different large drums and a bunch of little percussion, cute things like shakers and tambourines and things. I'll use the djembe, which is the big African drum, and the djembek, which is the smaller Middle Eastern drum. And the frame drum is for the big booms, but you can also play it you know, standing up with your fingers, and it creates a lot of different tones. And the bowron, the Irish bowron, which you hold and you play with a beater. And the tambourine with the head on it is really, really nice, and I've been enjoying that a lot, because every time you know, boom, you get a jingle, which is fun.
Yeah, I love the boom and the jingle at the same time. So how do you go, like when you start a song, how do you approach it? How do you start with, so it sounded like you started, you know, the main instrument is your harp?
Well, it depends on the tone I want to set. I like to pick a bass instrument that's going to carry the brunt of the accompaniment. And, you know, if it's a softer quality I'm going for, I'll use the harp. If it's something more raucous and fun, I will go ahead and put on a drum track and then layer things on top of that. You know, it's trial and error, because each instrument has a special texture, and as you get more familiar with it, you can kind of figure out what's going to work for certain combinations. And of course, sometimes you have to completely throw that out the window, because it's not going to work. It's like scrambled eggs and cinnamon don't go very well together. But if you add, you know, milk, you can stick it in the oven and make a nice custard. So.
So how do you record all this music?
I turned my clothes closet a long time ago into my recording room. For a long time, it still had clothes in it, and it absorbed all the sound, and that was a really nice private room I could go in, because this apartment is really tiny and there's no privacy, so the closet was probably the only room in the house where I could get some privacy. But you know, it worked really well as a dead room. Just absorbed all of that echo and sound and white noise. And when I started going more professional with my music, I took all the clothes out, I took all the racks out, and we lined the walls with foam, and now it's a proper recording studio, you know, as good as you can, you know, get on a tiny budget. And I went ahead and invested in 2 nice mics, and I have a cheap interface. Hopefully that'll be better one day. And that's how I do it.
Cool. So you're able to, you've got enough space in that closet to hit record and then start playing. And...
Well, now that the clothes are out, I have a little bit more space. I left one rack in, and I put the laptop on top of that, and I'm very lucky that it's a quiet laptop and doesn't have a very loud fan, so it can stay in for most of the time. And I just I have myself and the mic in there, and it will fit the big harp, but it won't work for violin because I can't get my arm out. I have to do that in another room.
Okay. How do you approach writing lyrics? Like, does that just come to you, or like, will lyrics come first, or do lyrics always come second, or?
Well, they always come first for me, because especially with game covers, you know, it's the melody's already done, and there's no point in doing it if you can't come up with a good lyric. So I'll see if I can get a good lyric down first before starting the arrangement. I will, for the most part, only write lyrics to games that really mean a lot to me personally, games that I've played over and over again, and I really understand. You know, because when you have a real emotional bond with the characters and a strong understanding of the plot, you're more likely to come up with something that other players can appreciate, and will have a lot of integrity. You know, I found that I can't just sit down and write. I have to be doing something else, something mundane, like cooking eggs. Generally yield some good things.
So cooking eggs and music.
Or washing dishes or cleaning up. Those are generally when lines come to me, and I'm like, okay, go write this down. I don't know why.
So you just need to do what you normally do in everyday life, and things just come to you. I'm
sure Mom would think I need to clean up more.
I'm sure my mother would say the same thing. So what are some of your favorite game soundtracks that kind of inspire you?
I have 3 major favorites. The first one is the Crystal Chronicles original soundtrack. Oh God, the composer and the arranger really knew their early music very, very well. It's just, I put it on whenever I clean or cook, and it's just my happy place. I love that soundtrack. Another is the Journey soundtrack, because Austin Wintory is a god. It's a very cinematic soundtrack. It's not your everyday general soundtrack at all, and when you play it with the game, it just has such an impact. I'm really impressed with that soundtrack. It's so good. And also the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack. And I've covered many themes from Final Fantasy IX. The melodies of that game are so easy to manipulate and get flexible with. They sound good no matter what you do to them. And, not all of his work is like that. Some work, really needs to be taken with some care. But Final Fantasy IX can be bastardized. And it will still sound great. So, I've probably not finished it all with that game.
My first experience listening to your music was, I think it might have been the Xenogears soundtrack, and then I ended up listening to the Rose Generals on OC Remix, and I was just like, who is this? I love it. And I checked it out, and then I saw you had a CD, and I was like, I gotta get this too.
Thank you. So. Yeah, that one's a big favorite. I'm surprised because when I listen to it now, it sounds so rough. But
No, it could never sound so rough. What are you working on right now?
Oh, well, this spring I did a little bit too much work. I took on a bit too much for myself, and I developed nodes on my vocal cords, and I couldn't sing for half a year or talk. And it was enforced rest so that they would heal. And I'm sure that's easy for the doctor to just say like that because, most people don't have to sing to work, but I have to sing to work. So I was, having to stop my job. So what I did instead is I started a instrumental Celtic album. It was a completely instrumental album with Celtic and medieval music. And that's kind of getting back to my roots, where I was playing with that group. I broke out a lot of the old repertoire and played with them to death, and saw what I could do with the instruments. I think I got better just about on all the instruments while I've been working on this CD, and I'm looking at a St. Paddy's Day release because it's almost finished, and it's been really fun to work on. Of course, now that I can sing again, I'm going to be finishing up some projects that are late. There's a track for the new Final Fantasy III OC Remix album that I really need to get in. Work in progress were due a long time ago.
Awesome. What video game systems were you playing when you were a kid?
Oh,
did you go back to the NES or did you start later?
NES was a little bit before my time, or because again, my mom didn't allow the stuff in the house for a long time before she was turned on to it as well. But I first had a Game Boy Color. It was a awesome little system. Mine still works. And I had Link's Awakening and the old Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3 adventures. Those were really good. I think Final Fantasy Adventure was more of a Secret of Mana spin-off rather than a Final Fantasy spin-off. But that game was really good, and Link's Awakening was really good. And then after that, I got my PS1, and I immediately got Lunar Silver Star Story. That was my first PlayStation game, and it's just so awesome. I love that game. And after that, Final Fantasy VIII, and then I started playing the other Final Fantasies. I think I own all the consoles that were made after the PS1. I just don't have the two newest ones, the pumped-up ones that are in stores right now.
Yeah, I don't plan on buying one of those for a while either.
They're so expensive.
I know, and there's nothing that catches my eye yet either.
And no backwards compatibility either.
Well, I'm not expecting that. That's a hard thing to do, actually, engineering-wise.
Is it really?
Yes.
Well, then they need to, get on their game with the PS Network and put them all on there, because
I agree.
I want to throw money at them, but they're just blocking it.
It's like for years when Nintendo doesn't come out with their old games, like Earthbound's the biggest one that they're blocked forever. Everybody's all pissed. It's like, I want to play Earthbound, come on.
And I want Valkyrie Profile.
Or Mother 3, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Valkyrie Profile, what's that?
You've never played Valkyrie Profile?
Never even heard of
Oh my gosh. Go educate yourself.
it. What system?
Well, it's about Norse mythology, and you play the battle maiden, who's the spirit, and she's coming to people who have just died, and she's hiring them for Odin's army, and so the whole game you're just enlisting people for Odin's army, and you get to see how they die, and sometimes something horrible, or sometimes they just they just pass away, but they're great warriors, and they need to be in this army. It's very good. I think the point of the game is you have to get them really fast. I mean, you can, you get more points the faster you do it.
Cool.
And then there's Valkyrie Profile Sumeria that was released for PS2, which is still widely available, and that's very good as well. That's that's very much more story based.
Have you ever played the game Nier? N-I-E-R?
Yes.
I love the music in that game.
It's so pretty. I wasn't
Yes.
expecting that, because generally, you don't have a lot of vocals in the background music. You expect them for the song, but that was really pleasant. And the vocalist has such a nice voice.
Yes.
And I can say that as a vocalist without jealousy.
What covers would you like to do soon?
Well, everyone has been bothering me for Eyes on Me, and I really want to do it. I just don't feel like I'm ready to tackle that piece. I know there's so many covers of it, but it's a deceptively difficult piece with a big range, and I just don't want to make a fool of myself with something I love so much. But I'm probably going to push myself to do it pretty soon, because I actually have the hard part done for it. It's just sitting there waiting for me.
So, forgive me, but I don't know what Eyes on Me is.
Eyes on Me is the theme song for Final Fantasy VIII. It's
Okay.
the ending song. It's a very pretty. No. It's just difficult. It's a difficult piece to do well. You can do it badly. But if you want to do it really well, you got to have some upper register control. And now that I'm getting over the vocal cord notes, I just don't have any upper register. I'm going to have to work up to that gradually.
You'll get there. And I look forward to hearing that.
I also want to do a few pieces from Chrono Trigger, especially the all percussion track from the Primitive World. That just was one of my favorite tracks from that game, and I really think I could do something fun with it. So that's one I want to do. And I'm also planning a Zelda album. It's all the ocarina songs from the first Zelda game, but done vocally. And I already did Zelda's Lullaby, so I just have the other 8 or 9, or how many others are there? Goodness. And I have to write it.
That's exciting. I like that idea.
Any others? Oh, there's just so many others. But it's limitless it's a can of worms.
How is your process different between writing original music and how you do video game arrangements, or is it pretty much a similar thing?
Well, it's similar, except with video game covers, a whole list of steps is already done for you. The piece is written, the tone is set, there's subject matter already for you to work with, extensive subject matter for you to work with. So the pressure there is just coming up with an arrangement that's different enough from the original tune to be worth people's time, but still have the soul of the original intact. And with just a completely original song, you have control over everything, but then infinite possibility becomes your enemy, because you can do anything. So what would be the best path to take with this song? And originals end up taking a lot longer for me, because I'm just trying to do them the best I can. That can be difficult for me, since I'm a perfectionist.
I'm glad that you're a perfectionist, though. I mean, it really comes through in the music.
Oh, thank you. You just don't see me beating myself up behind the scenes.
No, I don't. That's what's nice. I get the CD, it just sounds wonderful, and that's it. And you're probably recording it over and over and going nuts. Especially those little, it's like those little 8 or 30-second notes. It's like, oh, I didn't play that with enough emphasis.
That really makes a difference, because if it's not right on the beat, it just sounds messy instead of enhancing it.
So you don't have, because since you play live, you don't have the
Oh yeah.
ability to just be like, oh, I'll just adjust that note a little bit here, and
Yes,
you gotta redo it.
Because live music has its difficulties, but if you're into synthesized music and you're doing a lot of synthesized music, then everyone already knows the performance is going to be perfect. So then your challenge is just the sheer volume of work you have to create within a time period, and the how good that arrangement is going to come through. Because I feel like they're pretty much the same in difficulty. I don't feel like live musicians are any less skilled in what they do. Definitely not. I think if you take some of my arrangements and you put them into synthesized form, they wouldn't be all that impressive. They're impressive because they're done on real instruments. Well, some of them are pretty good.
So I would like to thank Kate for joining me on this interview. If you'd like to know more about her wonderful music, visit erutanmusic.com. And Kate's music is also available for purchase on louder.fm. I found the easiest way is just to go to the search bar and type in Erutan.
Do that.
Yes. Thank you, Kate.
Bye.